Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. Let me just start with saying that it's an honor and a pleasure to be here, even online. I'm very glad that there's this online opportunity as the hectic end of semester will not allow me to participate in person. So what I have for you today is actually a glimpse into a very broad topic, conversion narratives. Yes, a few introductory remarks on the go. The research I'll be presenting today does not come from representative groups. It's all qualitative data, but so far I hope to show you some interesting remarks that beg to be explored further in the future. So the number of people who have been brought up in contemporary pagan families and follow similar paths as adults keeps on growing in the whole world. In Poland, however, the majority of pagans are still pagans in first generation, who at a specific time of their lives decided to engage in one path or another. And most of them, and actually each and every single person I have interviewed, come from Roman Catholic families. And this is not that much surprising, as the majority of Poles identify themselves as Catholic, and the Roman Catholic Church is still thought to be the most influential religious institution in the country. What is important though, that my respondents rejected Catholicism in a certain point of their lives and turned to varying pagan paths, including rodnovery, rodzimowierstwo, the Slavic native faith, or Wicca or Druidry. Still, the church is this big other religion that roams in the background all the time. Why is it so? Some answers on the way, but starting with the religious landscape of Poland, presently the neo-pagan community remains a tiny minority within this landscape dominated by Roman Catholicism. And the neo-pagan community consists mostly of followers, as I said, of native faith movement, rodzimowierstwo, also translated as rodnovery, and which of course reconstruct religious praxis of pre-Christian Slavs. But there are also followers of so-called imported religions, also through Wicca or Druidry. And this pagan witchcraft community in Poland has continued to grow steadily, especially from the 1990s, when the most active religious associations were established, and of course due to the advance of the internet, knowledge and context of paganism, which is abroad, became more available for the interested parties. So this is the pattern we are quite familiar with as it comes to Poland and other post-Soviet countries. So the most dominant religion in the landscape of Poland, as I said, is Roman Catholicism. According to 2011 census, 87.6% of population Catholic. However, more recent studies show that the decline in numbers is growing and growing. The number of people who are following pagan paths can be safely estimated to at least a couple thousand as 2020. For example, Konrad Kośnik and Elżbieta Hornowska estimated solely the number of native faith movement adherents as approximately 7,000 to 10,000. We had a census last year in 2021, and this hopefully will give us some more insights, especially that there were some social media campaigns encouraging to enlist as pagan or native faith adherent, and so on and so on. Currently, we have 4 religious organizations termed as paganism and neo-paganism, and 2 of them are actually active. That said, more and more informal in the context. So registered groups are being established both in biggest cities like Warszawa, Kraków, Wrocław, and also in the countryside. And jumping up to the coming home theory, I'm pretty sure some of you are very much familiar with it. And again, referring to Margot Adler, to whom we have referred today very often, in 1979 in her Drawing Down the Moon, she described contemporary pagans as coming home rather than converting to paganism. And Adler called contemporary paganism a religion without converts, and referred to her personal experiences of her personal experience and personal experiences of other practitioners. And their stories can be summarized as, I finally found a group that has the same religious perception I always had. This was the case of Adler as well, as she wrote, and I quote, "Like most neo-pagans, I never converted in the accepted sense. I simply accepted, reaffirmed and extended a very old experience." End of quote. And since then, since that very book, the notion of homecoming has been discussed thoroughly by scholars, especially from our field of pagan studies, also by pagans themselves. And this usage of Adler's hypothesis that pagan come home rather than convert resonates in writings in such researchers such as Graham Harvey, Joanna Crowley, Melissa Harrington. For many pagans, this discovery that there are other people in the same country or in the same city, that there are people who share the same spiritual needs and worldviews, provides a sense of belonging and allows to find home, the existence of which they never actually suspected. And this home can be created by religion of pre-Christian Europe, as noted, for example, by Adam Anczyk and Masaryk, who claim that, and I quote, "The reference to the past is always a major feature of the whole pagan movement," end of quote. Still, there are some others who have argued against coming home metaphor, seeing it as an example, a form of theological postulate and a metaphor concerning not only contemporary pagans, but adherents of other religions too. This is the case for example, Eugene Gallagher, who stressed how similar pagan accounts of conversion are those with other faith movements. He actually referred to the Moonies, the Unification Church of the United States. And Gallagher also noted that the other's view of conversion is a very specific, narrow, and represents the so-called old paradigm of conversion. So a rather sudden, passive conversion, which is very often called Pauline paradigm, as it corresponds to the conversion of Paul of Tarsus on the road to Damascus, as it is described in the New Testament. But the new paradigm of conversion, on the other hand, focuses on active agents seeking self-transformation. It focuses on processual character of conversion that happens slowly, gradually. Yet, as noted by Siobhan Reed, for example, even 30 or actually now 40 years, more than 40 years after Adler's book, the vision of conversion as a classical Pauline-like narrative is still prevalent in the pagan community and perceived as a loaded and pejorative term, because among others it refers to Christianity, this big other we've already heard about. And this means that even with some critical analysis, the coming home metaphor, it still applies to many pagans, and some have criticized it as a norm of how one becomes involved in contemporary paganism, even a theological principle. And I was intrigued if the metaphor still applies to the community, so I decided simply to ask the members, actually a small part of Polish traditional Wiccan community. Some words about my field research. I'm a field researcher, as many of you, so to the field I go, conducting participant observation during open rituals, conferences, workshops, informal meetings, and of course in-depth, semi-structured interviews. I have been conducting this field research among Polish pagans since 2014, so I started with British traditional Wiccan community, and these are 32 respondents. Also, the general category of witches, contemporary witches, 4 of them, Rodnovers, Slavic and faith followers, 10 of them, and also 1 druid, at least so far, 1 druid. And while exploring these religious biographies of all my pagan respondents, I used to follow more or less chronological order with them. So first experience with religion as a whole, finding paganism, getting initiated, for example, in Wicca. And as I already mentioned, the Roman Catholicism turned to be the starting point in most cases. Actually, in every single case, but not everyone was that much engaged in the church. However, all of them got baptized. And the majority of my respondents has left Catholicism in their teens, in some cases only after confirmation, for different reasons. And what those reasons might have been, why not Catholic Church? And for those respondents who consider themselves Catholic at some point of time, the reasons of abandoning church of course vary, but 3 main categories can be established. Firstly, the Catholic Church did not fulfill spiritual needs. The lack of certain feeling and emptiness of ritual of the Catholic Mass was underlined in the interviews. During pagan, especially Wiccan rituals, in many cases, all people present in the ritual circle can play the active role, and anyone can conduct the ritual if needed and desired. This was the difference that was also underlined in the interviews. The second group of reasons is connected with those teachings of the Church which do not correspond with respondents' belief. This would include theological, social, ethical teachings, My respondents would not identify themselves with the worldview proposed by Catholicism, perceiving it as an equivalent to their own worldview or current needs. And the third and last group of reasons of abandoning Catholicism was centered around most, human factor, namely people who were connected with the Catholic Church, both clergy and lay, were seen as false and hypocritical. For example, those who attend Sunday service rarely turn gospel into everyday life action. And considering those analyses, my respondents fit quite well into the general discourse of leaving the Catholic Church in Poland. My observation is also that criticizing the Church is a common as in both popular and shared topic among Polish pagans, and the Catholic Church poses a natural point of reference given the social cultural context of the country. And this shared critique is not surprising, of course, and can be found in other narratives of converts who decided to leave Christianity both in Poland and in other countries. And two quotations here for you from two of my respondents. From Brno, a Wiccan, she said, "I have a really big need to experience mystery and spirituality. Somewhere on the way I found out that the Catholic Church does not provide me with that. I would even wanted to do so, but it disappointed me. I have much intense contact with divinity, with gods in the bosom of nature than within the church walls." And Wojmiła, another, said, "I was never too eager to go to church. It has always struck me as a lie. I just didn't feel it, didn't feel that faith." So we can also think, why not Catholicism, and why certain free paths, like those three I've already mentioned, free paths from free Wicca, Rodnovery, and Druidry from the interviews I conducted. Why Wicca? In the Wiccan case, again, the reasons vary depending on the personal experience, but I gather the most common answers into certain groups. The first of them, connection with respondents' interests, centers around many themes, among them interest in magic, the occult, witchcraft, enjoying works of popular culture can be also named. They prove to be very meaningful. Reading fantasy novels like Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley, but also Arthurian legends, also watching cartoons, films, TV series like Charmed or Robin of Sherwood. Originally, those interests were simply treated as a hobby, but it turned out that there are people who do witchcraft for real. And this entwines with the second group of reasons, the general match with beliefs, opinions, and intuitions. It seems a natural consequence of being disappointed with the teachings of the Catholic Church. So I do not like what the Church offers, I search elsewhere. But the search for the sacred, being a priest or priestess, is also important, to connect with the god and goddess, all the mystical experience which cannot be transferred to words that easily, playing active part in the ritual, a phenomenon nearly non-existent in the Catholic Church. This was also underlined, and the return to nature, the natural cycle method, feeling close to nature, observing its changes, the circle of season elements, and so on and so forth. And as I already mentioned, I asked this small Polish Wiccan community about the coming home metaphor while conducting research for my PhD, and I explicitly asked them about this idea. Firstly, whether my interviewers even heard about it, and secondly, if it matched their own experiences. And 24 people out of 31 knew the theory before, and after explaining metaphor to the others, 25 respondents finally agreed with it, expressing comparable feelings. And to give you some quotations also here, from Welkan, he said, "I can say that when I found Wicca, it was like, wow, I'm in the right place, in the right time. It's like I've been doing it for ages. It came naturally." Ellie said, "It's like something clicked and you're in your own right place." And Agni said, "I had the same experience as many people did. When I heard the word Wicca for the first time, I had a certain feeling about it, like my intuition or consciousness was telling me something. So very, very often you can meet other Wiccans and feel that you are the people you belong to. I felt that way too." So this is the coming home, which was very much accepted in the Wiccan context. I cannot give you any answers about the other context, other paths, the Rodnovery Druidry. However, I can give you some reasons for choosing those particular paths. So why Rodnovery, rodzimowierstwo? The first category of reasons was connected again to interest in Slavic culture, to music, folklore, demonology, historic reconstruction groups, which was also quite popular. One important side note here, also addressed by some of my Romowy respondents: during education process in Poland, children do not learn that much about Slavic culture, especially in comparison to Greek and Roman mythology. For some of my respondents, it was a revelation of a sort that, whoa, we have a Slavic mythology. They discovered it much later, during their studies or as adult people. One of my respondents also referred to how much he was influenced by music. So this is again a theme we encountered also yesterday here at the conference. This particular respondent referred to music by Polish folk and rock band Żywiołak. Their text encompassed pre-Christian Slavic beliefs, and literally he said that it's their fault, I'm a road lover, it all started with them. So the culture first, but also other things were important. Polytheism, being sure that there are more gods than one, as it is in Christianity. Also closeness to nature. Many of my respondents referred to their childhood, which was spent in the woods, and they felt more connection to the sacred in the nature than with the church building walls. Also connection to the Slavic roots, like our land, our tradition, our heritage. These were the things that were very often mentioned by my respondents. And this stressing the local aspect of constructing the native faith as man's identity was also underlined by other researchers. For example, some time ago by sociologist Maria Liszowska-Żukowska, this feeling the need to return to ancestors, the religion, to the Slavic roots. And give you again some quotations. Here, yes. So Wajron Nowery, Mieczław said, I thought that why would I be searching for something out there, since we have our native, our own tradition and religion, so this local aspect here. And Wojsław said, I'm drawn to this faith because I have a feeling that I'm participating in something that's beyond the ages. The second thing I believe is that polytheism explains the world better than other theological options. And I chose the Slavic tradition specifically because my assumption is that since different peoples have developed their own traditions, it is appropriate for me to stick to this tradition which is related to my people, my origin. And the last of my responses.
You have two minutes, Joanna, please. Okay.
Splendid, thank you. I interviewed only one Druid so far, but I decided to include this in the paper because his narrative shows similar traits to other narratives I encountered in secondary sources, reading Polish Druidic websites. So he mentioned reconnecting with the land we live on, also Celtic culture, similar interests, and Druidry as the most basic Indo-European religion. And he literally said, I really liked it being Druidry, I like Celtic culture, and its music also inspired me. Besides, I started reading and noticed that Druidry is the most basic element of Indo-European religions. So to jump up to conclusions, as I said, this was just a glimpse into a very, very broad topic, but to conclude, I give you some common threads. I identified themes that kept coming and going. These are not, I guess, that much very surprising. There's common threads in why certain pagan paths were chosen include interest in Celtic culture, be it Slavic, Celtic, witchcraft, reconnecting with the past, with the ancestors, both actual and spiritual, nature and its importance, feeling immersed in it, revering in rituals, and polytheism, or at least not monotheism. Also the importance of feelings. Catholic Church feels not right, paganism feels right. This is the first phrase that kept coming in different interviews and it seems important to me to underline it here. The general conclusion is we definitely need more research here. And on that note,